Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from the Legal Action Group. It's the third edition of the Housing Law Handbook by Diane Astin. It's a first-class book. It's available in print and as an ebook. And Legal Action Group, LAG, the Access to Justice charity, have come up trumps again with an excellent book, which is of general applicability both to the lay client, the advisor, and of course the professional. My wife Elizabeth and I have given it a title. We've reviewed the previous editions of Diane's excellent work, and what we've done is we've given this title to it: A Most Vital Modern Guide and an Established Essential Resource on Housing from the excellent Legal Action Group, and of course the excellent Diane Astin. I'll talk a little more about the actual content of our review in a minute. Let's have a look at the book. It's a heavy book. It's expanded again. Nice red cover, the spine, and then there's a lot on the back. A bit difficult to read some of it actually, but there is a lot of information on the back, and it shows what the contents are there, and it also shows the basic changes that have taken place. The book actually runs to just under 1,000 pages. As usual, you've got a very detailed index right at the back. There's something slightly different which I'll show you concerning this publication. You do have the actual paragraph numbering at the sides, which is very helpful, and there's a nice amount of footnoting, but you'll be pleased to hear not too much. One thing you do have is you do have some shaded areas, which is quite useful to look at, to bring your attention to certain things. That's actually, for instance, the key points in a particular area that she's talking about. What you do have, for instance, this is on homelessness. You've got there, this is chapter 14, you've got a little sub-index right at the beginning of the chapter to explain what's in it. And what you do have, again, running through, you can see the actual chapter headings are running through a bit, then the key points. Then you've actually got, you then go straight in to the actual little subheads and the actual detail itself. And what you do have is at the back, in some, not every chapter, but some chapters, you have, and this is actually the following chapter, again, dealing with homelessness decisions, you have a little notes on the appendix. So the appendix is actually, where relevant, actually behind the chapter concerned. So it's not the same as having an appendice, a series of appendices right at the back. For instance, you've got in this particular subject, this is chapter 1, Occupiers' Rights Basic Principles. You've actually got right at the back the appendix, which deals in this case with the tenant's notice to quit. So the actual there's the appendix there, which shows you the actual detail you might need to have. So it is slightly different from what you might be used to, but it doesn't actually detract at all. This is a first-class publication. There's the front page, a bit of detail about Diane. Then you've got a preface, which is well worth reading. You will see that I've quoted from the preface in our review. There it runs through there. And Diane wrote the preface, 31st of March 2015. Just before the general election. Then you've got the contents page there. Then you've got useful table of cases. There are in fact 22 chapters in total. The book has expanded a bit. You've got table of statutes after that, then table of statutory instruments. Then you've got the European statutes, so forth. Then you've got the abbreviations, which are very useful to look at because they're quite important, bearing in mind there's an awful lot of abbreviating, and it is quite useful to be able to refer to it because we don't sometimes know what some of these abbreviations mean. You think you do, and it's best to have something there which will assist you with trying to find what you're looking for. There we go, that's the book, about 1,000 pages, just under. It's quite a heavy paperback, but it's a first-class book. This is what we say because this book has been published with the backdrop of the general election. And this is what we say. Diane Astin is on superb form with her new third edition of the Housing Law Handbook, published by the Legal Action Group in 2015 to coincide with the general election and a new government. Whether that was designed, I don't know, but in fact that's what's happened. So you've actually got a book which has come out at the time that there's a new majority government in power, and we may well have some changes. There's much work to do in this legal sector, as we all know, with the implementation of the Localism Act 2011, LASPO, and the Welfare Reform Act 2012, since the second edition was published. And that second edition, of course, was published in 2011, I believe, which was about a year after the previous general election. So it's come in a bit of a cycle, but we're very grateful to have the new edition, as we don't know what the landscape is going to look like, because there could be changes. Whatever the future holds then for housing law policy with the incoming government, one thing is for sure, and that is the end to the old system of legal aid. And this Housing Handbook is now just under 1,000 pages long, as I've said. It's quite heavy, but it does one thing which Lady Hale, Brenda Hale, mentions with her unarguable conclusion, which she presented in the Sir Henry Hodge Memorial Lecture in 2011, when she said that, quote, "Courts are and should be a last resort, but they should be a last resort which is accessible to all, rich and poor alike." Now, as practitioners and advisors, we are very well serviced by this LAG handbook, which, like all their other titles that we see in court, provides just about as much access to justice as we're likely to see for the next few years, unless some substantial changes occur in the provision of litigation funding for the poor. It may well be that there are changes that we're not aware of at the moment, but the future is a little bleak, frankly. It's therefore a bit of a lifesaver to us and to many others as we see further reductions in public funds made available for legal matters to actually have a book of this is standing. Whatever the merits or defects of the current legal aid policy, the housing matter which the client comes to us with a problem needs resolution, and Astin's new edition provides an excellent service for us, whilst complexity of the law and its procedures increases as access to help diminishes, and that unfortunately is a fact of life for us to deal with. We feel it's useful to draw the reader's attention to some comments which Diane has passed, reflecting the realisations we now face in 2015. And she writes that when surveying recent development, two things stand out. First, that removing welfare benefit law from the scope of legal aid is an excellent way of heading off challenges to draconian welfare reform. Obviously, money is a crucial element of this. And second, politically motivated piecemeal amendments to social welfare law has increased its complexity at the same time as the sources of legal help diminish. And of course that is a problem for a lot of us. It's not just in this area. We do find that complexity is on the increase, and the actual resources and help are actually decreasing. And that's a problem we've got to face. But with books like this, we do have some help. Astin finishes off by saying a prime example is housing benefit, and that legal aid is no longer available to help with a housing benefit problem at an early stage. That's a decision that's been made, and we have to basically live with it, as I've said before. The final nail knocked into the argument is one has to ask, what use is a system of rules and appeals if both are inaccessible to the people affected by them? And I say that as a practitioner, and I know my colleagues who are judges see what has happened with the withdrawal of legal aid and the huge increases in time problems in the courts. It's too true. Actually, we've been here before with the massive civil court reorganisation that took place during the coalition period, and it highlighted the serious problems, as I've said, by withdrawal of legal aid in court proceedings themselves, which are prolonged now up to possibly fourfold to cater for the litigant in person. Not something I suspect that the guys who came up with this policy of cutting legal aid envisaged, because you can actually cut off your nose to spite your face, or for a ha'porth of tar the ship was sunk, whatever phrases you want to use or imagery you want to develop, the problem remains, and that is you've got to think about the balance. And we may well be in quite a serious imbalance at the moment. Things do have a habit of changing, and there may be some changes on the horizon. Whilst we continue then to face the practical implications of less legal aid, but with justice remaining accessible to rich and poor alike, it's clear that publications from LAG, such as the new edition of the Housing Handbook, provide one of the only sources of legal advice which is available cheaply at the moment and which meets the accessibility criteria for the time being. It's a slim hope, but there's a possibility, as I've said, of further radical shake-up of the provisions of legal services between now and 2020, so that any vision for the future may not be as pessimistic as some commentators have predicted. And I hope I'm going to be borne out with that. I don't know what the future is, but certainly for something like housing law, where very vulnerable people are involved, and it's a basic requirement to have a house to live, you can see the issues which obviously are coming to the fore. Only time will tell, and we're fortunate to have Astin on housing to hand. So in the meantime, thank you, Diane and LAG. Now the law is set out on the 31st of March 2015, and it includes the changes made by the Deregulation Act 2015, but we could well be in a bit of a new landscape quite quickly. I'm not sure exactly what austerity measures will occur in July, but be aware. Here's the book again, front, spine and back. It is a heavy book, a nice paper by the way, so it doesn't rip. Housing Acts, right in the middle. I've gone straight for it again. You've got paragraph numbering at the sides, as I've said, just to repeat. You've got footnoting, which is useful but not overdone. The point I will make again is, which I did find, I think, very helpful, is the appendix, which is actually now at the end of each chapter where relevant. So if you are looking, do bear in mind that that's where to find the particular information. The index, of course, is very useful at the back, which I've said, and then again, you've got, actually right at the last page, you've got a Tomlin order. Now, I spend a lot of time scrabbling around in my practice books, but you've actually got a straight Tomlin order there, so that's always quite useful to know if you've got something at your fingertips. Just at the front again, I'll just show you the contents. There we go. There's a lot in this. It starts off with occupiers' rights, then possession claims, procedure, and running all the way through community care, then finishing off with civil proceedings at the back. Then you've got the cases, statutes and so forth. Yeah, it's a lovely book, this one, and I'm very grateful. I know how much work goes into this, but I'm very grateful to all the people involved for producing this. As practitioners, we require and need the help of this sort of work, but these books go further. They actually help people who are either advisors or people themselves who've got a problem, who may well be litigants in person. So it is a book which is readily available for all. Thank you to everyone concerned. Bye-bye.